The first thing Daniel noticed when he stepped into the house that Christmas evening was the silence. Not the peaceful kind that comes with falling snow or soft carols drifting from a radio, but the heavy, polished quiet that only very large, very expensive homes seem to hold. It wrapped around him as he closed the door behind him, the sound of the latch echoing too loudly, as if the house itself had been waiting to hear who had arrived. The place looked exactly as it always did, flawless. The marble floors shone like mirrors, aware of their own beauty. A towering Christmas tree stood in the center of the living room, decorated in gold and silver ornaments that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Wrapped gifts filled the space beneath it, stacked carefully, their edges sharp, bows perfectly curled. Somewhere in the distance, a faint instrumental version of a carol played, low enough to be tasteful, just loud enough to remind anyone inside that this was, indeed, Christmas. Daniel loosened his coat and took a breath. He had grown up in comfort, had never known real want, but this house, his Aunt Margaret's house, still managed to intimidate him every time he visited. It wasn't warmth that filled it. It was order, control, wealth arranged so carefully it felt untouchable. Margaret emerged from the dining room with a glass of wine in her hand, her pearls resting neatly at her collarbone. She smiled when she saw him, the kind of smile perfected over decades of formal gatherings. "Daniel, you made it," she said. "I was worried the weather might delay you." "Traffic was light," he replied, offering a hug that she accepted briefly, politely. "Everything looks beautiful." She nodded, satisfied. "We do Christmas properly here." He followed her into the dining room, where the long table was already set though dinner was over. Crystal glasses, fine china, silverware aligned with military precision. The remains of an extravagant meal had been cleared away, leaving only the faint scent of roasted meat, butter, and spice lingering in the air. "We finished dinner earlier," Margaret said, glancing at the clock. "You're welcome to dessert." "Maybe later," Daniel replied. He hadn't come for food. He'd come because Christmas was supposed to be spent with family, and this was what family looked like for him now. As they spoke, a soft sound came from the kitchen, the quiet clink of dishes, water running gently. Someone was still working. "Oh," Daniel said, nodding toward the sound. "Is the staff still here?" "Yes, of course," Margaret replied casually. "Lena is finishing up." Daniel had seen Lena before, though never really noticed her. She moved like a shadow through the house, efficient, quiet, careful not to disturb. He'd never learned much about her, beyond the fact that she had worked for his aunt for years. Margaret excused herself to take a phone call, leaving Daniel alone. He wandered toward the kitchen, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. As he approached, the light changed. The kitchen was smaller than the dining room, warmer somehow, less polished. Lena stood at the counter, her back to him, her hair pulled into a simple bun. She wore a faded sweater beneath her apron. She didn't notice him at first. She was focused on a small plate in front of her. Daniel stopped just inside the doorway. On the plate were leftovers. Not arranged, not plated with care. A small piece of meat, some cold vegetables, a bit of bread torn in half. It was clear this wasn't a meal meant to be served. It was what remained after abundance had passed through. Lena sat down at the small kitchen table and began to eat quietly, quickly, as if time itself might scold her for lingering. Something inside Daniel shifted. He watched, frozen, as she took careful bites, her posture slightly hunched, her eyes lowered. The contrast hit him like a blow. Just a few rooms away, a table that could seat 12 still gleamed under chandelier light. Gifts sat unopened, waiting to impress. And here, on Christmas night, the woman who had cooked and cleaned and served all day was eating scraps alone. Lena looked up suddenly and startled when she saw him. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said quickly, standing up. "I didn't know anyone was here. I can clean." "No," Daniel said at once. "Please. I didn't mean to interrupt." She hesitated, unsure, then sat back down slowly. "I was just finishing up," she said softly, gesturing to the plate. Daniel stepped closer. "Is this your Christmas dinner?" She offered a small smile, the kind that tries to make less feel like enough. "It's fine. There was plenty earlier." He knew what she meant. "Plenty for others." "Do you have family here?" he asked. "My son," she replied. "He's with my sister tonight." I'll pick him up tomorrow. Daniel nodded, his throat tight. He thought of his own childhood Christmases, the warmth, the laughter, the certainty that there would always be more. He had never once wondered who cleaned up afterward. Never wondered what they ate. I didn't realize, he began, then stopped. The words felt useless. Lena finished the last bite and wrapped the plate in a cloth. I should finish cleaning. Mrs. Margaret likes the kitchen spotless before morning. Daniel stepped aside to let her pass, but as she moved, something in him refused to stay quiet. He followed her back into the dining room, his heart heavy with a feeling he couldn't ignore. Margaret ended her call and looked at him expectantly. Everything all right? Yes, he said slowly. But I was wondering, did Lena eat already? Margaret blinked, surprised by the question. I assume so. The staff usually manages. Daniel glanced toward the kitchen. She was eating leftovers. Margaret shrugged lightly. Well, yes. We had plenty of food. There's no need to waste it. He stared at her. It's Christmas. And she's paid, Margaret replied, her tone sharpening just slightly. Very fairly, I might add. The room felt colder. Daniel took a breath. That doesn't make it right. Margaret's smile faded. Daniel, don't start. This is how things work. She knows her place here. Her place. The words echoed in his head long after the conversation ended. He left soon after, making an excuse about an early morning. As he stepped outside, snow had begun to fall, soft and silent, covering the world in white. It should have felt magical. Instead, his chest ached. That night, he couldn't sleep. Lena's small plate replayed in his mind. The way she ate quickly, quietly, as if grateful for what little she had been allowed. The way no one else had even noticed. The next morning, Daniel returned to the house earlier than expected, carrying 2 bags from a local bakery. Margaret was still asleep. The house was quiet. He found Lena in the kitchen again, already working. Good morning, he said. She looked up, surprised. Good morning, sir. Please, he said gently. Daniel. He set the bags on the table and opened them. Warm bread, pastries, fruit. The scent filled the room. This is for you, he said. She stared at the food, confusion and hesitation crossing her face. Oh, I can't. Yes, you can, he said. Sit with me. They ate together, slowly. For the first time, Lena laughed, a small sound at first, then more freely as he asked about her son, her life, her dreams. She spoke of working long hours, of saving for school fees, of hoping someday for something more. Daniel listened. When Margaret came in later, she froze at the sight of them at the kitchen table. What is this? She asked sharply. Breakfast, Daniel replied calmly. For the staff. For people, he said. The argument that followed was quiet but fierce. Margaret accused him of disrupting order, of overstepping. Daniel accused her of forgetting compassion. By the end, something had shifted. Not just in the room, but in him. He left the house that day with a decision forming in his heart. Weeks later, Lena received an offer she never expected. Daniel had helped her enroll in a training program, had connected her with opportunities beyond cleaning and serving. He didn't frame it as charity. He framed it as fairness. On the next Christmas Eve, Daniel didn't return to the mansion. He spent the evening in a modest apartment filled with laughter, mismatched chairs, and the smell of home-cooked food. Lena's son ran through the room, excited and loud. The table wasn't perfect, but every plate was full, every seat equal. As snow fell outside, Daniel looked around and felt something he'd never felt in his aunt's house. Warmth. And he knew that once your heart breaks for the right reason, it never truly breaks, it opens.